it out here this morning. It's a little cooler than the last few Sundays. Jesus says to the Jewish believers, if you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples. You will be made free. The truth will set you free. This would be very confusing. Psalm 119 says very clearly, I walk in freedom, for I have sought out your commandments. It's the psalmist talking to God, saying, only you can give me freedom. Only God can achieve freedom for me. It's by believing in God, loving God, worshiping God, following God, listening to God, acting, communicating, welcoming, sending out, washing, eating, drinking, doing all things with our eyes set on God. That's why I am free. The truth is, the second book of the Bible is called Exodus. The Jews were enslaved by the Egyptian, and the whole book, at least the first part, is them exiting slavery. The story from Esther today is Esther helping the Jews get out of enslavement. They were enslaved by the Babylonians, the Assyrians. At the point in time of Jesus, they're being ruled by Rome. It's not slavery, but it's pretty darn close. But that strong faith the Israelites, the people of God, had was that you can try to enslave our bodies, but freedom is only achieved by God alone. So they push back. What's this guy that we're really believing him got to offer that God can't already do? Similarly, the saints we kind of talked about had pushback. Olaf, as much as he wanted Sweden to become a Christian nation, there were a lot more powers more powerful than him, most notably that temple in Uppsala, the largest temple to the Nordic gods. And he feared probably assassination if he were to attempt to fully Christianize Sweden. So what did he do with that pushback? He persisted by opening up churches and missionaries to continue spreading the good news. Siegfried, a Christian minority in a mostly Nordic pagan country, one that had persecuted Christians, ones that had killed missionaries that had come before, he received pushback. Yet he persisted in sharing the good news of Jesus and inspired those who came after him. Bridget, I really like the story of Bridget. A person whose pushback in life was losing her husband, essentially losing any power she had, yet she devoted her life to penance and prayer for God, and became one of the most powerful women in the 14th century. Something not heard of in that time. And then you have the Reformation, the pushback from the Catholic Church, the pushback about penance and all of these other things, and yet King Gustav I, with his help of Laurentius and Olaus Petri, persisted with the teachings of Jesus. Persisted with the verse like we have today where it says, the Son will make you free. Not us. The Son will make you free, and you will be free. You are free indeed. Then you have, I know he wasn't in the service, but you had people like King Gustavus Adolphus, almost a prodigy in warfare, ended the 30 Years' War. So that this isn't a Danish Lutheran church, but it's a Swedish Lutheran church. I hear we have some royalty in here, which was pointed out to me, so thought I'd bring him back up. And then we get to the pushback that Lars Esbjorn had. Now, Lars Esbjorn was part of a movement called the Pietistic movement. What this movement was, it was moved towards a stronger love for God, taking God's rules and commandments seriously, taking the people we love more seriously, denying the body of different things so that you can show your love of God more. And for that, he had a lot of pushback. For that, he was unable to really get a church that suited him in Sweden, and so he moved to America. He persisted. He lost almost his whole family trying to get here, and yet he persisted. His own health was in question, and yet he persisted. Not just making this church, but making a whole sect of churches across this very country. The Augustana Synod, for which this church is named. So Jesus gets some pushback. How can Jesus, a Jew himself, free them when all these people are already free? Well, Jesus persists. He continues. Very truly, I tell you, everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. Everyone is imperfect and therefore a slave to their imperfection. Everyone will fall short. Everyone will not be able to fully love God, like you so said, with not being a slave, because God is the one who frees us. And because of that, you are a slave, and a slave doesn't get as good a spot in the house as the son, me. Jesus agrees with them that it is only by God alone that we are free, but he reminds them something that they will not get until he dies and rises again, that he is the Son of God. Jesus reminds these believers and us that our imperfection does not get us a place in God's house, but Jesus, the Holy Son of God, who died for our sake, died for our sin, our imperfection, which we are a slave to, Jesus makes us free. This is the message that was spread from Israel into Rome, into Germany, into Scandinavia. This is the message that spurred on a reformation to change our ways because we've lost sight of God and all that he has done for us. This is the message that spread over to America, spreading the gospel to even more people. This is the message that this church was planted on. The message that because of Jesus, we can shout in the midst of our sin, in the midst of our imperfection. Because of Jesus, we can shout, if the Son makes you free, you are free indeed. So, with that, I want you to open up your bulletins back to the gospel reading. We're going to do a little participation. Verse 36. I want us all to say this together. So, if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. Quick reading from Mr. Lars Paul Esbjorn. Since having been awakened in 1839 by God's undeserved grace, from the slumber of indifference and led to a living belief in he who makes the ungodly righteous, I immediately began to participate in the Christian activity, which in this land enlivens noble hearts to seek and encourage God's honor and the spiritual best of mankind. This is the message that Mr. Esbjorn is talking about. The message that I invite us to say together again. If the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. This is the message written on our hearts. This is the belief that takes us into the future, that causes us to live for today, and reminds us that God's love will always be there. Because if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. Amen. We continue with the hymn of the day by day, which is the number on the hymn board.